Hello there and welcome to another video from my YouTube channel Benidorm and Beyond. Today I'm taking you to the beautiful mountain village of Guadalest, about 25 kilometers inland from Benidorm. I took the number 16 bus from the Avenida Mediterraneo at 10:15 am, which runs Monday to Friday. The journey took 55 minutes and cost €3.90 for a one-way ticket. The scenic views on the way are worth the fare alone, and once there you have just over 2 hours to enjoy the sights. The bus drops you off in the car park and waits in the same spot for you to return to Benidorm at 1:30 p.m. On the upper car park across the road, you will find public toilets and also the Tourist Information Office where you can get a map. You will also find the Blue and White Salt and Pepper Pot Museum in this area, which can be entered for a fee. Next to these, and on the other side of the road, are 2 rows of shops and cafes. Personally, I would say visiting any of these until after your walk around the village itself. Here we get our first glimpse of the Eagle's Nest, as it is called, and to the left you can see the lavadero, or washing area, where the women used to wash their family's clothes many years ago, using the rough stone sides to grind out the dirt. There are several museums in Guadalest. This one here is the Micro Giant Museum. Inside you can see a bull ring built on the head of a pin, an ant playing the violin, and the Bible recreated in a section of a hare. I confess I've never been in myself, but it certainly sounds different. Let me know in the comments section if you have ever visited and what you thought. There are many craft shops selling local and national products in the village, and you can find leather and wickerware, ornaments, handbags and clothes for sale, as well as lots of lovely souvenirs. In fact, I can't remember even one time when I visited Guadalest and haven't brought something home with me. Such is the range and value of the goods and gifts available. As we climb upwards, you will see the odd whitewashed house tucked away amongst the craft shops too. The population of Guadalest is around 200, and yet it is still one of the most visited attractions in the whole of Spain. Should you wish to stay the night and get the bus back the next day, there are a surprising amount of accommodation options available, from cosy rooms in a rural house to apartments overlooking the castle. I have never been to Guadalest at night myself, but I can only imagine it was really magical all lit up, with the sun setting on the mountains and the swifts circling in the evening sky. Maybe I'll treat myself to a breakaway one day and report back on it for you. As we round the corner, the beauty unfolds in front of us. It really is a view I could never get tired of, no matter how many times I visit. The 11th century castle of San Jose lay straight ahead of you, which was created by the Muslims and can be visited for a small fee, along with the Alcazaba castle from the same period, and also the Casa Orduña Museum that shows you how the noble family who resided here in the 17th century lived. The famous white bell tower is called the Peñón de la Alcalá. If you look very closely, you can just see the sea in the hazy distance, even though we are so far inland. The castle can only be accessed by walking through this 15-foot long tunnel carved out of the rock and is known as the Portal de San Jose. It's always lovely and cool in here on a summer's day, and there is a bench inside. Once through the tunnel, we enter the cobbled streets of Guadalest, and you really feel like you've gone back in time. Here on this main street, we find the parish church of Our Lady of the Assumption, which dates back to the 18th century and is built in the Baroque style. The church was built between 1740 and 1753 on the site of the original temple dating from the times of the Reconquest in the 13th century and was burned and looted during the Civil War. It was remodelled again in 1962, shortening its length and varying the floor plan. Between 1995 and 1996, interior decoration works were carried out in order to save the current building. Along this road you will also find the Ethnology Museum, which has been created to show and explain the way of life and work of Guadalest's ancestors. The museum is set in a typical house from the 18th century built into the rock and has explanatory posters and information brochures which are handed out to visitors in English and a variety of other languages. It is free to enter, and even if museums aren't usually your thing, it really is very well laid out and interesting, if only to see the insides of a typical house in Guadalest, which is fascinating in itself. Unfortunately, it's not allowed to take photos or videos inside, so I can't show you what it's like. So if you want to have a look, you will just have to pop in and see for yourself. Here we are at the Plaza de San Gregorio, which again has an abundance of crafts and souvenir shops, so even the hardiest shopper will surely come away with something. From here you can look down at Guadalest's breathtaking emerald green reservoir. Its unusual colour is because of tiny particles of silt suspended in the water. The dam was built across the Guadalest River between 1953 and 1964 and is 73 metres high and 270 metres long. It supplies water to many towns and villages in the area, including Benidorm. The reservoir is a great place for freshwater fishing, but you'll need a licence. You can also take a walk all the way around the lake, as I have done many times, but unfortunately you realistically need a car to access it, so an idea for another day. This is the town hall for the village, and underneath it you can find the 12th century prison. This is the statue of San Gregorio, or Saint Gregory, who is the patron saint of Guadalest. He was the first monk to become pope way back in the year 590 and was the 64th pope of the Catholic Church. His fiesta is celebrated on the first weekend in May, in which holy water is blessed. The celebrations are called Fiestas de la Juventud, or youth festivities, since it is the young people who are in charge of the entire organisation. In total, 6 villages shape the valley of Guadalest. Along with El Castel de Guadalest, where I'm visiting today, you can also find the small villages of Benimantel, Benifato, Beniarda, Confrides and Abdet. The villages can all be visited should you hire a car or maybe motorbike for the day and have a charm all their own. You really get a wonderful feeling of sleepy countryside Spain whilst walking around the old streets, and you could easily feel you've been transported back in time. The agriculture in the area consists mainly of citrus, olive, carob and almond trees. The almond trees especially look gorgeous in January and February, which is blossoming time, when they fill the valley in a sea of delicate pink flowers. The village is still used by the locals, and there is a primary school where you can often hear the local children playing. The medieval castle overshadowing the Guadalest Valley was originally built in the 11th century during the Muslim rule over the Iberian Peninsula. It served to control the valley, as infighting between the smaller kingdoms left by the disintegration of the Caliphate of Córdoba was constant. In the 13th century, after the Christian conquest of the region, the castle and the town were incorporated into the Kingdom of Valencia by James I of Aragon. Muslim inhabitants of the region were allowed to remain in the valley and work its land until the eventual expulsion of the Moors in 1609. The site then changed hands over the centuries. On June the 22nd, 1644, an earthquake partly destroyed the fortress. In 1708, during the War of the Spanish Succession, a mine blew up its western aisle during a battle. Nowadays, only a small, ruined portion of the castle still towers over the valley. At the beginning of the 18th century, the gunpowder reserves blew up at Guadalest, causing enormous damage. In 1848, the castle was finally abandoned. In the 20th century, Guadalest has gone through some very important changes. In 1953, the construction of the dam began and was completed in 1971. And in 1974, Guadalest was finally declared a place of historical cultural interest. Here you can see the Museum of Micro-Miniatures, where you can see such works as a Statue of Liberty inside the eye of a needle, a flea dressed as a bullfighter, and a famous painting by Spanish artist Goya painted on a grain of rice. You certainly are spoiled for choice if looking at very small objects is your interest. The admission fee is €4. Here on your left is the restaurant La Haute, which features snacks as well as a full menu of the day and of course beautiful views across the valley. On the right you can see the Doll's House Museum, which also houses a collection of beautifully made nativity scenes and costs €5 to enter. In this shop there are some super fun items of vibrant kitchenware and things for the house, which are of course practical too. But as most of them are made by trendy designer brands, you might want to display them instead of using them. It's lovely to see all the bright ceramics and unusual gifts for sale here in Guadalest, and such a variety too. When I first came to Benidorm over 2 decades ago, there were lots of lovely craft shops such as these. Now sadly there is only 1 or 2, as so many of the traditional shops have gone, only to be replaced by the same old shops selling the same old things, and I think it's a real shame. Further along this street, you can also find 2 charming shops selling local food produce from the area. Products include a wide variety of honey from their very own beekeeper, including organic royal jelly, which is supposed to be super good for you, and also natural cosmetics made from honey, rosehip, aloe vera and olive oil. Also for sale are jams, artisan sausages, regional cheeses and sweet wines typical of Alicante, along with ceramics and jugs from the town of Agost, about 11 miles from Alicante city. Here on the outskirts of Guadalest, you can see the road which leads on into the mountains if you have a car, and leads all the way through to the village of Callosa d'Ensaria and onwards to the Algar waterfalls. Within walking distance you can find the municipal swimming pool, which is open every day and has an entrance fee of just €2. I hope you enjoyed this trip with me to the stunning mountain village of Guadalest. And if you did, please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you out and about next time. Cheers!